You listened while he excitedly told you all about the new action movie coming out in a few months. And then you watched his brow pinch as he described the new ball tricks he'd been working on perfecting. It was easy to laugh along to his tales. You enjoyed the shine in his green eyes, most when the conversation shifted to funny stories about his little brothers. Still, there was a part of you that hadn't moved from the conversation in the park. Your face went hot replying Derek's proposal for the future in your mind. You said yes. That did that mean you were kind of engaged? Engaged with cave feet? Maybe focusing on the pebble you were rolling under your foot, you felt a strange thrill twisting in your chest. You peeked at him, and Derek was still busily telling you about the time Nicholas dropped his treat baggie in the car, and most of the cookies fell under the seat in the loose hair and dirt. Wrinkling your nose, you laughed. No matter what happened in 10 years, you hoped you and Derek still got to hang out, even if you were just sitting on the curb together. It was almost hard to believe that much time had passed at all when a couple of short honks rang out in the neighborhood. Snickering, Derek scratched the back of his neck. That's here. You looked up the street and spotted the van coming around the corner. Mrs. Suarez cheerily waved her hand out the window from the shotgun seat. Oh, and Mom too. Guess we know what that means. Derek rose to his feet and brushed some dirt off his pants. You followed his lead as the car rolled to a stop in front of your house. The van's side door slowly and laboriously opened. On the inside was George with a victoriously wide grin as he tugged the heavy door open the rest of the way so Derek had a way in.
Hi.
Hi. Nicholas was there too. You heard him well before you saw him. We're here. Looking past George, you found Nicholas bouncing against his straps in full force. Thanks for coming, guys. Shyly, you waved hello to both brothers. George nodded with a tiny smile, but Nicholas was too absorbed in trying to tell Derek something to really notice. Holding on to the sides of the open door, Derek leaned into the car to give Nicholas a moment of one-on-one attention. You could hear the kids' giggles over everything else. Faintly, you could hear that a conversation was happening between Derek's parents, but you couldn't make out a single word. And before you could do anything with that thought, Derek glanced over his shoulder. He paused and held your gaze softly, and then Derek let go of the car to stand back in front of you one last time. I've gotta go. Well, you know that, but bye. It was really cool hanging out today and this summer. Not even his usual cheery enthusiasm could keep his sadness away this time. His voice grew quieter, and he scuffed his foot on the pavement.
We had a good summer break.
We had a good summer break, huh? But it had to end sometime. Luckily, we've got that deal to assure our uncertain futures. Surprised, Derek's eyes grew wide that you'd so easily brought that up. He scratched the back of his head and his expression warmed affectionately. Yeah, we do. It's all set. That's right, partner. You hugged him goodbye. Holding him tightly, you just weren't ready to let him go. Derek chuckled and gave you back a few pats. I'll miss you too. But that time had finally come, and Derek hopped on up into the cabin of the van. George and Nicholas waved to you from their seats. The adults shouted their goodbyes next from the front. You laughed at their muffled voices, and Mrs. Suarez leaned out her window.
Have a good one.
We realized you probably couldn't hear us. Mr. Suarez and I just wanted to say goodbye, Faye. Yes, goodbye. Derek's dad leaned over his wife to give his farewells. Bye, thanks for the fun summer. You turned to George and Nicholas because it really wouldn't have been the same without them. Of the two, George seemed to be the one listening, and you watched his stunned look melt into a warm one.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the fun summer. Nicholas excitedly kicked his feet as he spoke. He copied you. You were full of pride over his seal of approval. Grinning ear to ear, you gave the little boy a thumbs up. Take care, Faye. Then Derek closed the door for George this time. He moved the massive door with much more ease. After that, the car moved further down the street before flipping around to drive up the hill and out of the neighborhood. You remained rooted there to the curb and watched the Suarez family drive away. You realized you got a chance to see the whole family again. But they were gone, and you were left to your own devices. Pivoting around, you made your way inside. Now that it was quiet, you yawned and decided that it was a good time to settle in for the night. Stretching your arms over your head, you noticed that the living room and the phone happened to be free. And you knew when it was perfect because all the exhaustion from the day started fading away. Sighing contentedly, you were pleased with this end of the day. Looking at the clock on the wall, you saw that there was only about 10 minutes until your mom's would be insisting you had to go to bed so you could be rested enough for school. You stretch your legs out on the couch and sigh in defeat, watching the minute hand change 1 minute closer to bedtime. You rearranged yourself, feeling restless, and looked out the window. Startled initially, you spotted a figure out in the hills. It was Cove. When the surprise faded, you realized it really wasn't that much of a shock at all. It was exactly something Cove would do. You went outside to meet up with him. Strolling casually, you went over to the front door. When you arrived, you noticed how many fireflies were out that night. They drifted along lazily, barely minding your presence as you waded through to reach the top of the hill. Cove turned towards you as you approached, and you noticed right away that Cove looked happy to see you. Hey! Smiling shyly, you stopped in front of him. Your fingers nervously pulled at a loose string hanging off your shirt. Hi, what are you doing out here?
Nothing.
Nothing, not really. He shrugged, seeming unhappy with his own answer. You stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Well, I guess I was feeling kind of weird about stuff, so I'm getting some fresh air before bed. I hope you feel better. His mouth curled into a bent smile. He spoke so quietly that you almost miss it. I think I will. Cove let himself fall back onto his butt and then all the way down, so he was laying on his back. He looked up at the sky. You laid down yourself. You lowered yourself to lay back on the hill. He had been lost in thought, or was possibly waiting for you to situate yourself, but he started speaking unprompted again.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for being kind of awkward when my mom was leaving. Surprised, you stared at him a moment. You weren't expecting that. I just wanted you to know that I talked to my dad about how I felt and things. It's okay now. You were genuinely glad to hear that, and it brought a small smile to your face, but your thoughts quickly wandered back to the first day you met Mr. Holden. Did his dad confess about that? From the way Cove talked, you guess he hadn't. So there was more Cove and his dad should talk about, but it was a relief to know that they had made a start. Now is not a good time to bring up what you were thinking, though you could wait longer to say it. It was almost unbelievable how much of an impact he made on your life just by moving in next door. You couldn't even imagine what your days might have looked like in a world where you hadn't met him. Cove glanced back at you, waiting for a response, and you had no idea what to say. Cove just stared at you unblinkingly. What? It's you. Huh? He snickered before answering. He looked thoroughly amused with your reaction. That's what you do all the time, so I'm being you. So do you, Cove? Really? Yes, always. Cove couldn't help but grin at that. Honestly, there weren't many people you could think of who could tease you about something like that. Returning his smile, you realized there was no denying that you two have been around each other for a long time. Cove broke the quiet before it could fully settle.
See you tomorrow.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you then. With a final wave, Cove headed for home, but you stayed there a few minutes longer. Your mind kept going back to his simple statement, see you tomorrow. No matter how much was changing around you, there were some things in your life that always seemed to remain true. The hills felt warm to you that night. Before you knew it, you were going comfortable under the covers in your room. Your mind couldn't help but still be buzzing with thoughts about the future. You felt excited. There was little doubt in your mind that things were moving forward, and you couldn't wait to find out what changes were waiting for you on the horizon. Slowly, your eyes grew heavy as you drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning with wishful thoughts. No matter what happened next, you could only hope that you would make the most of it.